Meanwhile, the defamation lawsuit against Rolling Stone magazine heads to trial today. This comes nearly 2 years after the magazine published a story about an alleged sexual assault at the University of Virginia. The article, titled "A Rape on Campus," shocked many of its readers, also outraged some who in fact question the legitimacy of it all. A year later, the story was retracted following a Columbia Journalism School review. And CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman joins me now to discuss further what we can expect here. And Rikki, 4 words: limited purpose public figure. It has changed the landscape, at least for the sake of both parties. What exactly, though, did it do to the case?
If you are an ordinary person who says that you were defamed by a publication, you just have to prove that the publication was negligent. If you are considered a public figure, which we usually consider a celebrity or a political figure, or in this case, a limited purpose public figure, for the sake of this controversy about sexual assault, former Dean Nicole Eramo is considered a public figure. It changes the burden of proof. That's no small thing. This means that Nicole Eramo, in suing for defamation, has to show what we call in the law actual malice. That does not mean hatred. That does not mean ill will. What it means is that the statements about her were false, or that they should have known they were false. And that's where, in this particular case, she may be one of the only so-called public figures that I have seen in cases who may be able indeed to meet her burden of proof. Because what you have here was a reporter who had an agenda. The reporter wanted a university story somewhere about an outrageous sexual assault that had not been investigated properly by a university. So when she found this woman called Jackie, she thought she hit pay dirt. And then she didn't investigate underneath virtually anything, and in fact ignored contradictory evidence.
And that is the point here. And boy, I mean, when I was at Columbia, understanding the difference between negligence and actual malice, I mean, they are relentless about it, and yet the burden of proof of what you speak, incredibly high for public. High. And yet, to think that she might have a chance here, not just ignoring contrary factual evidence, but also not getting a statement, not reaching out to those accused in any way.
In any way, and not even getting their last name.
As though it would suggest, and I'm sure lawyers will suggest it, that she didn't want to know that she was wrong.
Perhaps, and I certainly think that's an inference that the plaintiffs are going to argue, that there were plenty of reasons to know that Jackie's story was not correct, and particularly about Dean Eramo, when there was contrary evidence. What you have from the defense, though, is a very interesting ploy here. The defense is saying, look, they're suing the wrong people here. You shouldn't be suing us, says Rolling Stone, because we're not the people who injured your reputation, because the Department of Education, in its investigation of universities, said that the University of Virginia was not up to snuff. Yeah. So if you were already considered not handling sexual assault cases well, what difference did our article make? The plaintiff, the Dean Eramo, says, wait a minute. What happened was that was a general statement about the university. You mentioned me, Rolling Stone. You mentioned me 31 times in your article, and you said I dissuaded her. You said I discouraged her.
Made me the face of the problem.
The chief villain of the problem.
Yeah. Other issues, such as the fact she's asking for almost $8 million in damages. I wonder what impact that might have. Also, if precedent such as it is, 3 members of the fraternity in question here had a lawsuit fail.
They have a lawsuit that was dismissed. However, there is one more lawsuit. There's a lawsuit pending that will go to trial next year, should it go to trial, brought by the fraternity itself, which is asking for $25 million.
I mean, those are big numbers, if nothing else. Does that suggest anything about what we might see come to pass here?
Well, I think that I'm going to read into your thought process. Do you think we'll have a settlement? Is I think what you're asking me, as if I were guessing. I think that the fact that we have not had a settlement is really surprising in this case. These big numbers usually mean that the case settles. But once they open today, all bets could be off. This is a big, big case. It is rare indeed, if not ever unheard of before, that you would have not only the police saying that there was no evidence to back up Jackie's claims, but you had the Columbia School of Journalism talk about this as a shoddy piece of journalism. So what you've got here are different fact finders that just say, in essence, this story should have never been published.
They're all in agreement. Yeah, CJR, in fact, calling it a journalistic failure.
Yes.
On every level. Rikki Klieman. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.